Então, Assespro Podcast especialíssimo, já que na véspera do AI Summit em Rio, que vai acontecer agora em maio 2021, e eu tenho pessoas que estão ligadas diretamente com esse contexto de inteligência artificial e a sua aplicabilidade no contexto empresarial, mas com alguns alertas que a gente tem que olhar para o caminho certo. Eu tenho a Priscila Lima, que é professora da UFRJ, bem-vinda, Priscila. Eu tenho também aqui o Felipe França, que é um visiting pesquisador, visiting researcher da Futuro. E eu tenho o Kunle Lukutu, que é um professor de Stanford e founder do SambaNova Systems, que vai contar uma história para a gente que é fundamental vocês ouvirem. E muito disso vai ser debatido no AI Summit in Rio. I'm going to go to English now because this is an English-speaking podcast for AI Summit in Rio. So I have Priscila Lima from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, and I also have Felipe França, who is a visiting researcher to Google. And Kunle Olukutuk, he's a professor from Stanford and the founder of one of the most prolific AI startups in Silicon Valley called SambaNova Systems. And he has something to tell us about why people should be looking what SambaNova has harnessed as the core of their value proposition. But I'm going to start with Priscila. Priscila, I would like to understand better, in what you see in the academic world and how AI, which you're telling everyone is a tsunami that's hitting every shore. How does the perception of the academic space, especially the Federal University of Rio, how they're looking on to?
Well, we try to contribute both in the AI trends that are more common with the artificial neural networks, the conventional ones, but we also try to find niches where we can really contribute. So one of them is weightless neural networks,
Okay.
which is based on memories, on lookup tables, so that the computation is faster and more sustainable.
So this is also a perception based on Kunle's view of data flow and velocity.
Yes.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, because people seem to be looking more at throughput from computational power rather than looking for data flow. Is that correct, Felipe? You were telling us before.
Well, that's what's the normality and mainstream. Yeah, that's the mainstream. But as I think we said before, AI now it's an infrastructure. That's it. So we are researching with the university going into how to contribute to the AI infrastructure, in fact. And I will go back again because I'm a partner with Priscilla in the weightless neural networks research. And why weightless? I will just a little bit more information. Imagine that why the heavy load of the AI infrastructure is to, in fact, perform a simulation of artificial neural networking. It's a heavy simulation. So that's why, for instance, Dataflow justifies not only for HPC but also for mainly for AI. But so in the weightless neural network model, it's kind of, or let's make the semantic gap between the model, the artificial neural network model that rules the world at the moment, based on who fits neural from the 40s, and let's go and use the weightless model that's more based on the decoding power of neurons. When they have the centric neuron, you could say that it decodes some input and gives you an output like a memory. That's the basic explanation for the biological causability of weightless neural network. Okay,
This decoding is information flow.
Yeah.
It's data flow.
So I guess the weightless neural model that you're Philippe is mentioning is your component pretty much inside what you're doing at SambaNova.
Yeah. All the intelligent people understand that, computing is really about moving data. And that's the fundamental limit. And so data flow is a natural way to think about things.
Okay. And so in the case of SambaNova, and the fact that probably I'm just here guesstimating that the organizations that are going to first be able to be aware of this concept are the big guys, right? That are moving a lots of data. Now, how this can be relevant, and here I'm all talking to probably the average persona of the companies that belong to the Assespro organization, what are medium-sized companies, right? So how this needs can be turned totally relevant for them as well.
Well, you mentioned that the AI compute in stack or AI is really about infrastructure these days, right? And so you think fundamentally the infrastructure that AI is creating turns energy into intelligence, right?
Okay.
And so, if you kind of measure the increments at which people are putting the infrastructure in, right? It's now in the hundreds of megawatt increments, potentially even gigawatts, right? And so what's really important is how efficiently can you turn that energy into intelligence? And what is the infrastructure you need to put into the infrastructure to actually make this work? So it turns out that there are a lot of data centers that already exist for the computational infrastructure that we had before AI became the dominant player.
Sure.
Where, it was kind of mainly data processing. But if you compare the amount of energy it takes to do what you typically do in data processing with what you need to do for AI, it's 1,000 to 10,000 times more energy. For
1,000-fold.
Yeah, for an AI query, right? So what's really critical is how efficiently you can do that and what infrastructure you need. So you have this infrastructure, it's already in place. It can only really accommodate air cooling, right?
Okay.
And what you need to do if you want to go and get the latest NVIDIA equipment is you need to completely retrofit that data center, bring in water cooling, liquid cooling in order to use their equipment. The great thing about SambaNova is still air cooled. So you can take your existing infrastructure, data infrastructure, and roll out your old compute infrastructure that was meant for the old style of compute, and roll in the SambaNova equipment, which is designed to energy efficiently do the new style of compute, AI compute.
So you're actually monetizing further their legacy.
Yeah,
their invested legacy.
Their invested legacy, which is the kind of key thing. It is all about infrastructure, and they don't necessarily want to have to completely retrofit.
Do you have a number of measure of what you're being able to bear just by doing that?
Yeah, because you don't spend all that capital expense, which is depending on the size of the data center, millions of dollars, right?
Yeah, so going back again to the question of the medium-sized companies.
So those medium-sized companies, a lot of medium-sized companies are using the cloud, but a lot of their data is actually, 90% of data of most companies is still on-premise, right? So they want to be able to use that data. First of all, they may be in a regulated industry, banking or medicine, where they really can't move their data to be regulated. Or Brazil, countries like Brazil, like Japan, Germany, they want their own AI. They want their own sovereign AI, which is not based in, 2 or 3 hyperscalers that exist in the US, right? So they want to leverage their own data. They want that data to be kept local, so that it, so that the insights that could be extracted from that data don't go across the world to foreign countries. And they also want to be able to develop their own models and keep those models. This is what the open source
provides you, or the open weight models.
Okay.
And so you can take your local data, you can fine tune it for your particular problem, which will make it more efficient. Back to this energy question, right? You want to deploy AI at scale, it needs to be energy efficient. If you make it more specialized with your local data and your local goals, it becomes more efficient. And then you also get to keep that model. It doesn't, and you also need to get to keep your data. So there's some privacy and security benefits to hosting your own capability in your own data center, on premise, behind the firewall, on your data. You specialize the data, you specialize the model, you make it more efficient, you keep the information, the model, the insights all in house.
Mhm. So, talking about energy, and we also have to talk about clean energy,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
sustainability is also a main theme worldwide.
Yeah.
You look at. I was watching yesterday with my wife, maybe impacted by the current astronaut that went around the moon. So looking at Apollo 13,
yeah,
and the issue they had with Apollo 13, but looking at Earth and looking at the impact for them being able to look on Earth the way they were seeing it.
right.
Right. So and we see that. Wow, we only have this place to live. There's no one else.
Right, right. Yeah,
So what are we doing about it?
yeah.
So going back to clean energy, isn't it Brazil that would have a very unique position because of its clean energy throughput that it has to be like some of the hotbeds for data centers that are really in line with this new architecture for AI, right? They have to be liquid cooling, cooling clean energy. And so what do you think about that, Philly?
Great. Okay. Well, our energetic place is a very sustainable. I think one of the most, most in terms of size, there is no one like us. It's a lots of influence. Dams and hydro.
Yeah, we have a very diverse ionic, solar,
Yeah.
hydro. Yeah.
Yeah, that's you have this, and I think because of what Brazil, I think you said, but what I could see in the newspapers is that I don't look directly at that. Is that they are trying to make progress in terms of using clean energy host data centers mostly for it. Yeah, so that's a match with the
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think
Yeah.
it ends up being like a brand equity issue for organizations?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, part of the uh, narrative in the news is, these AI data centers are, using so much power and so much energy that they are affecting the cost of power. At least this is in the U.S. what's going, the narrative that's being told. They're affecting the price of energy. They are impacting the local, water uh, uh, supply, and they are using huge amounts of energy. And so if you can make a story around the fact that you've got renewable, clean energy, then I think that is a story that is important. And it's important not just because of narrative, because, AI, as we just discussed, is this transformational technology that is being used at a greater and greater amounts every day, right? And so I was just at a roundtable, and the predictions are we need 10,000 more. In the next few years, we need 10,000 more AI compute capability, given the way that people imagine that, especially this new era of agentic AI is going to be used. And so that energy has to come from clean sources, right, to provide that energy to keep the computing capabilities going.
Yeah. So if we were to try to figure out just from a high level what would be the overall cost difference, and someone that had to actually revamp the entire infrastructure they have, rather than just going through SambaNova, or using this concept of, where I am first focusing on data flow, and because of that, I make sure that I'm frictionless for that matter. So if I go and try to go the route that is available today versus going with trying to provide for, let's say, protection of my legacy, right? My investments. What would be the factor that you would say?
So the factor between sort of revamping that.
Actually, the number is, if you do it this way, it's a 3-to-1 proposition, right? Because you're going to have to invest at least 3 times more if you go down that route.
Right.
With SambaNova, you're going to be saving at least 2 times. Right? Because you are thinking about data flow, but you're still using your own infrastructure.
Right. Yeah. So you get those benefits, and even if you want to take the added investment to revamp the data center to provide liquid cooling and higher density of compute, SambaNova still gives you benefits, right? Because we're in this era where what's really required are what we call premium tokens.
Yeah.
Premium tokens are what everybody wants because we all want to have the most intelligent agentic AI solutions for our coding software applications, for our business workflow applications, for everything that we want to use AI for language translation, for voice generation, for robotics, what have you. You all need these premium tokens, which are tokens that have high intelligence because they are generated from a very complex big model with trillions of parameters. And then they also are given to you at very high speed, right? So if you are building a agentic system, it's not a single language model that is doing the work. It's a ensemble of language models that all have to talk to each other. And they talk to each other not at human speed, they talk to each other at the speed of computation, right? And so the demands on the number of tokens and the speed at which those tokens have to flow to give you the response that you're waiting for after it does all the communication among the different language models has to be very high. And so, if we don't have these fast tokens, then we won't be able to supply the infrastructure for the agentic environment.
So, premium tokens, weightless neural networks, can they all be called green premium token or premium green tokens? Because they are producing less or requiring less energy. They're energy efficient.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you put a LEED seal on a building or you put something on a refrigerator.
Yeah.
So now, can we label my weightless green neural networks?
Yes, in fact, is one of the points we make that.
So you actually are highlighting that fact that you are green.
Yeah.
You're green compliant.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We have even showed when we produce Italian chips.
I wonder if we could tie this into actually another business, which is carbon credits.
Yeah.
Because then that's we go back to the metrics of how much you're actually saving, and that save right there can be translated.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And if you let me add some complexity to the conversation, I am from the another topic of research that I care a lot for is neurosymbolic computation, which is the combination of these different, almost opposing paradigms. And I guess with this kind of machine, this kind of infrastructure, we'll have a better possibility of integrating reasoning and what I call implicit knowledge acquired via the examples and explicit knowledge that you give with rules to the system. And we need to compute both together like we humans do.
Yeah. And to add to that, there was a line that came out when NVIDIA acquired a Dataflow-like computer company called Grok, saying this is the end of general purpose AI compute, right? So the idea is that, and it goes back to energy. If you make, Felipe and myself are both computer architects, right?
Okay.
And these are people who think about how to design,
Design and
build computation. And kind of one of the truisms of sort of computer architecture is typically the more general you make something, the more energy inefficient it will be. And the more specialized you make it, kind of similar to the way biological systems work, the more efficient it will be. And so what you expect going forward in order to kind of get this 10,000 times improvement in performance that we need to supply all the tokens that the world is going to need, a lot of it is going to come from specialization for reasoning, specialization for doing language models, specialization for doing models that generate visual scenes, specialization for models that do voice, and so on. And so this collection of specialized computation all has to communicate, and they're going to communicate using Dataflow techniques.
Yeah. Very good. So, how do we see, because, Felipe, you are also a researcher at Google. So I understand that, you are somewhat going back and forth, even though it's virtually, between here and Silicon Valley. Right? So a little bit like ping pong was mentioned before. So looking from your perspective, your point of view of being a Google researcher, so what is missing in Brazil that we need to understand about the importance of what we're discussing here about AI and let's call it the green AI? It's launching or something that they haven't been said. I haven't heard yet. But what's the green AI?
Well, the green AI, first, the best example for green AI is it's SambaNova. At the moment, the sector of pragmatic is for SambaNova. Data via Dataflow. That's the mission. These are the weightless neural networks that we are working. They don't use weightless neural networks like you see the future.
You look at the same concept, right?
In a different level.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
So weightless neural, does that mean it's zero or it's less?
no, it's not based on the weights. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There are ways of using
It's no
weighted neural networks
Okay.
and to bring them to the Boolean world in process.
Okay.
That's a different stuff. What we weightless neural networks are not these, but regular neural networks. They synthesize. They put on in runs and LUTs in lookup tables and also in logic, combinational logic and Boolean. But they pick the model that's your basic one, and they transform it. Well, it's a different stuff. Weightless, it's already in the Boolean, the 0-1. So you train it in the 0-1 world.
It's 0-1. It's a binary world.
It's a binary world. And it's interesting because it doesn't necessarily have to be in the binary world. It could be another base. But our computers and everything else that run the hardline. But it could be in another basis if it was possible.
But it still could be seen in a Dataflow perspective.
But a different level.
Yeah.
At a different level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying you're at a conference here.
Yeah, I'm at a conference called ICLR, which stands for
International Conference on Learning
Learning Representatives. That's right.
Learning representation.
Yeah.
Explain, please.
So, I mean, it's a very broad conference that covers all areas of AI, and the particular paper that I'm involved in is called ACE, Agentic Context Engineering. And it's a way of engineering the prompt that you give to the model such that it can become self-improving. So you structure the prompt in the right way, and instead of just kind of throwing the prompt out randomly, you structure the prompt into different components. 1 would be the instructions, 2 would be some examples, 3 would be, things not to do, 4 might be things to do, and so on. And then there'd be other components. And that by doing this kind of structure, you make the language model's ability to do certain tasks, such as solve math problems or solve business problems or generate code much better.
Of course, you have context.
You have context. You've engineered the context.
No, actually, I'm here, savoring because that's why I do the webinar in Silicon Valley before they go there. I got to get these guys context.
Yeah.
If I don't have context, I don't know if I'm going the right direction.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I want to see that.
Yeah. It's a very
agentic context engineering.
ACE.
Well, that's probably the ACE or whatever you do on prompt engineering.
Yeah, exactly.
Very interesting. So, tell me a little bit more about that paper.
Well, the paper was done by one of my PhD students who's an absolute gem. And, immediately published, the way that you publish in AI is kind of different from the way we published when I was in my home area of computer architecture. The idea is you write a paper, and at the same time that you send it off for review by the academic conference, you put it on what's called archive.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically publish it on the web, and people read it. And the amount of interest that we got from this paper is something that I've never seen on any other paper that I published in. People were very interested in implementing the ideas and using the software that we.
Oh, the assertiveness for any agentic to be there with context for sure has to be greater than if it doesn't have context.
Yeah.
Bottom line. Yeah, very good. Yeah, so and would you say that the ACE or the fact of having context engineering is also key for small and medium-sized businesses that they're looking into?
Absolutely.
And they go back to their own data.
They're using these techniques exactly to improve their.
So talking about data, what do our companies need to do to have good data to make sure that then they can run it through data flows in an efficient manner? Because I think that's another key issue.
Yeah.
Bad data, bad input, bad output.
Yeah. I've seen somebody talking about the bias in data as a fault of the data, but you have also to take care of the data that you acquire. And coming back again to neurosymbolic, you could maybe prevent that with some context given by the rules. So if you have a neurosymbolic system, you could clean your data or filter your data as you acquire it. It's a possibility.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, so we all know what DOD means, right? DOD?
DOD?
Yeah.
The Department of Defense.
Okay.
No more. No.
Oh, it's Department of War.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's not my point. It's DOD, right? Well, my DOD to me is never driven or not. And this is where we come in at the end of the day. It's data driven or not, but it's good data driven or not. If I don't have good data, I'm going to die anyways. Right?
And I give back the question to you because you are the guy in the market. So how do you acquire good data?
That's a very good question, especially in Brazil. I go back. Well, I should just step back to one thing. I am always inclined in my perspective of looking on things from a cultural component. How does that cultural component in that context bears and impacts the outcome, whatever outcome it is? And mainly because, we're talking about being a mutt. So my father's side was Dutch. My mother on my father's side was German. On my mother's side, my grandfather was Portuguese, naturalized Brazilian, and my grandmother Swiss. Father American, mother Brazilian. So a big, real mutt. So I was raised in different cultures, and I became very attuned to those differences. And looking on to Brazil culturally does not vary from each other. So I don't think that anyone has good data. If you look at a very simple experience, so look at the event that you're participating in now, and the evaluation sheet for how was your experience at that particular event. How many people you think actually answered with criteria, right, and explicit, right? Yeah. And like culturally, whatever. Yeah. And I think now people are going to wake up because listen, how do I then acquire and manage to keep it good data, right? This is a big challenge, and even our entity, Assespro, we have that challenge as an entity. And when you look at the sources that you acquire, you end up having to do your A/B testing on what you acquired before, right? Because then you do it with a specific purpose, and align with that purpose of communication, so you can actually do the hygiene of your data, right? And I think this is key for when we talk to our audience, which are made mostly of small and medium-sized enterprises, that they need to wake up that I need good data. And when I have good data, I also have to understand that it's not just about computational power, but it's also data movement and data flow. And I think that we're looking for that from ping pong Brazil US. That's a 10-to-1 proposition wherever you look. Right. But as far as Brazil and what we look at Silicon Valley or other more advanced ecosystem, even look at the GNP, it's 10-to-1. So I usually apply. We're 10-to-1. US 1, we're 10 behind. But a lot of people ask, how do you emulate Silicon Valley? I say you don't. You don't repeat what Silicon Valley did because you're not going to be able to acquire all of those generational improvements that they've had all the way back from not even the gold rush. Right. I take the fact, and you probably know this too well, that there's a big difference in our colonization between Brazil and the United States. Brazil was extractivist, and U.S., you had Huguenots that were persecuted by Henry VIII, so they left everything to go to a new unknown land. And that's detachment, that's courage, that's determination, and those are attributes of a cultural component that they actually repeat themselves generational. I say that if you have a trait that repeats itself throughout 3 generations, on the 4th it comes embedded. So you have all these people that came from England to populate the United States. So they have that generation that had to leave everything behind. Well, 4 generations later, guess what? Gold rush. Yeah. Leave everything behind again. I say they call the 49ers. 49ers, is that crazy dude going there? That's a 49er. Right. Put across the Cheyenne and the CU plains, go up the mountains, the Rocky Mountains, and come down the other side with the Fort Myers.
And it continues in Silicon Valley, right? Today, most of the innovation, comes from immigrants who come to the valley, and they continue the
it's a virtuous cycle.
And how do you see that for the acquisition of data? Do you think that there is a difference? Or do you think that Dataflow is better for this kind of filtering?
Well, I'm going to step back, and of course, I'm not, an expert. I was became an expert in international business. But the way I see the world today is that if you don't think first and foremost on the green aspect, there's nothing to talk about.
Right.
That has to come to bear. And when you do that, everything else comes along. And then, yes, data flow becomes important.
And you can talk about the energy sources, and they have to be green. Again, we have to use the energy as efficiently as possible, and you but yet you need to provide the kinds of capabilities that the agentic environment really needs. And so we've talked about these premium tokens, and so when you're generating these premium tokens on a SambaNova system, we've just announced a new processor. It's our 5th generation processor. So we've got, every 2 years we come up with a new generation. It's called the SM50. And this is on the order of 3 to 5 times more efficient and 3 to 5 times faster than the latest generation from NVIDIA.
And you're not calling it a green SM50?
Well, there's a marketing issue, which is, as you might know, the color associated with it.
Well, I'm sure communication experts can go around that. I'm just making a reference to the green.
Yeah.
No, it's a challenge.
Yeah, we certainly lean into the fact that it's energy efficient, right? So
yeah, sure.
Yeah, and that you get these benefits. You get the benefits, as we've already discussed, of being able to, roll it into your existing data structure, infrastructure, and that's, when it comes to green, it's not just about what happens when you run your computation equipment. It's how much carbon and resources do you expend to actually build the
what's your carbon footprint?
What's your carbon footprint? Yeah.
So we're coming here to the end of our very nice conversation, and very clarifying. But I'd like that each one of us be able to leave a message to our audience, understanding that our audience is comprised of businessmen and executives that are from mid-size and small companies. We do have big boys as well, but they already got their roadshow going, and they know what needs to be done. So I'd like to have each one of us be able to give a message to the audience that are going to be listening to us. So I'll start off with you, Conley.
Yeah, the message is agentic AI is going to transform your business, and the sooner you understand how that is, the better you'll be. And as has been already pointed out, it starts with data, right? And curating your data and making sure that your data is in the right form to be transformed by AI agents. And then when you want to run these agents, you need premium tokens, and you want to run them on models that you control, that fit within the confines of your data center. So SambaNova based systems can provide this capability and can set you up for a agentic future which you own, you control, and you get the full benefits from.
Well, I guess the next question to you is sign me up, because it has all the bells and whistles.
Yeah,
very good.
Yeah.
So, please, Priscilla.
I think that the data flow infrastructure is something that the university has to continue to look at and to experience more, to experiment more on that, especially to address both the sustainability of in energy efficiency aspects, but also to be able to combine these different paradigms of AI in a better, more efficient way.
Very good. Felipe França.
Well, I think I would copy something from you and ask people local, especially here in Brazil, to pay more attention of the potential that we have in the academic field. We still need to close this gap between the productive sector and research and university. It should get closer. So, and okay, that sometimes I need some to make this my business work, and I have to be profitable, but you have to invest. You have to invest in the future. You have to look closer to the research. I think that's the.
Well, that because of that, I need to actually thank Maria Luisa Leite from Lab 245, and she's a great example of that.
She's an excellent.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So we do have some examples. We're going to make more. So they've got to clone Maria Luisa, like the army of them, so we have more of that. But let me tell you, you both have just done the same by being here and contributing to our podcast. So I really thank you, Priscila. Thank you, Felipe and Kuli as well. And, excuse me, eu agora português. Então, pessoal, AI Summit Rio vai trazer justamente muito dessa conversa que a gente teve aqui hoje, uma conversa muito importante, que ela traz aí vetores que são estratégicos para qualquer empresa que precisa entrar no jogo da IA. Né? A primeira é a questão dos dados, né? Bons dados que você consegue fazer a curadoria, que você consegue fazer com que ele realmente tenha a função de te dar o melhor insight para a tomada de decisão. E tem a questão toda também de como é que você vai preservar a infraestrutura que você já tem, e aí como é que você usa o fato que eu preciso de muito mais, agora, capacidade de computação em função da demanda da IA, e você fazer isso de uma forma limpa, de uma forma onde você também está contribuindo para o meio ambiente, né, e para a sustentabilidade do nosso planeta, que é o caso da SambaNova Systems. Tem aqui o Cunho Locutor, que junto com outro brasileiro que está lá em Vale, criaram essa empresa que trata exatamente disso. Então, olha, AI Summit Rio, 20 e 21 de maio, não percam, vai ser algo muito importante para quem quiser realmente entrar no jogo da IA com efetividade. Espero vocês lá.